All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 3 of Leading in a New Frontier. In this episode, we talk about what's keeping you up at night. Both Timmy and Pete talk about the different anxieties that they're having, and more importantly, what strategies they're using to address those anxieties. This one is short in time, but packed filled with great strategies. Sit back, enjoy, and thanks again for being part of this experience. What are the things that are really giving you anxiety when you think about the fall? If we can talk a little bit about that, I would love to hear both your takes on that.
So what keeps me up at night? Two things. Let me say that again. Three things right now. One, am I supporting my staff in terms of what they emotionally or even physically need right now? So do I have a handle on where everybody is at in their home life and in what's going on? And am I reacting based on what I know or don't know about them? So one way I've addressed that, which I recommend so much, is any time I cannot email someone and can instead call them, I'm doing that anytime. So there's 5 to 10 times a day where I have a nice phone conversation with a teacher. It takes longer than the email, but I just feel like it's so much more impactful because I still answer the question they had, but I also hear how they're doing, and I stay connected, right? So that's number one. Am I keeping my connections with staff? Number two, are we doing enough for the kids that aren't doing anything at home? And My student support team has been unreal at how good they've been at this. And my teachers have been phenomenal, reaching out on their own, caring, giving kids slack when they need it, all that stuff. But I also knew that the next step was these home visits. And that's sort of what spurred me to be like, well, if we're still striking out after 8 weeks, we can't keep doing the same thing. We need to do something different. And so that's where we started talking about home visits to see if that helps. So are we doing everything to keep kids involved? And then to your point, Neil, the third thing is, in one respect, the fall is so far off and the world is going to change so much between now and then. In another respect, 4.5 weeks from now, our teachers enter their summer vacation. And some of them continue to grow in the summer because they just can't help it. But others, rightfully so, go to their summer, right? And they're not exactly trying the new tech thing or learning the new online teaching skill. So even though we're so far from what's going to come at the end of August, we only have 4.5 more weeks to get people on the right track. So I'm constantly thinking, what can we do next to help them be ready for the fall? And to be honest with you, I think this is probably it might be the thing I feel has been the hardest, but might be the most important. Is I think there's a trend in education since accountability came in that it's like the administrators should get in a room and hash out that 100-page improvement plan, and they should stay in that room till they have that plan, and then they should walk out and they're good leaders because they have that plan, right? And I just think it's the opposite. I just think like I keep telling my teachers, I have no idea what the fall is going to be like. And guess what, guys? And no matter how many times you ask me, I have no insider information. There's nothing. No one knows what it's going to be. I say, but I do read a lot and I do think a lot. And here's the different things that could be coming. And here's what could be good about them. And here's what could be hard about them. And I just keep trying once a week or once every 2 weeks to have a big think out loud session so that, I want teachers to digest it with me. Administrators are often like, I don't understand why my teachers can't change. And meanwhile, the administrator has been creating the change plan for 3 months. So we've digested it, we've emotionally reacted to it, we're ready to go. And then we drop it on them, and a week later, they're supposed to change. And the point is, no, they need to digest the change with us. So I'm really focused on how much can we accomplish in the next 4.5 weeks that makes us more prepared for everything that could happen in the fall. Because after 4.5 weeks, I know I'm going to be thinking about it every day, but I know most of my teachers, rightfully so, are going to be chilling on vacation.
Such a fantastic point. Pete, how about you?
What's not keeping me up at night? Thankfully, I got 4 beautiful baby girls and they're wonderful sleepers, including that 7-month-old. And so shout out to them. Keep sleeping, girls, because you ain't keeping me up at night. I love it. My dissertation is keeping me up at night because I'm sweating that. We're in the final stages. Um, but seriously, like Timmy, it's the well-being piece. How are the kids doing? How is the staff doing? Mentally, emotionally, and physically too. That's keeping me up at night. Literally on a nightly basis, I'm worried about how folks are doing. And it's I don't think that'll ever stop because it's we're in that human profession. That's what NPT is all about. Um, in terms of the fall, I go back to movies and I think of Jeff Goldblum in the original Jurassic Park banging on the table. And the quote is, we're so preoccupied with whether or not we could, we never stop to think if we should. And I try to be worried. I'm worried about that for the fall. We have a lot of, and we're doing it in our own district too. What could we do? What could we do? What could we do? What could we do? And nobody is saying what should we do, and then start from there. And so I'm worried about that for the fall. I got my eye on that for the fall, because like Timmy said, we just don't know, and we're not going to know. So I think somebody has to be um, the moral center, and it's hard to determine who gets to do that. But somebody has to bring folks back to, let's talk about what we should do instead of pushing and pushing and pushing, and never giving that any consideration. So that keeps me up, and I think it's incumbent upon us to be the voice and the leaders that sometimes step up and say, you know what, we're not going to do that, even though we could, because it's not what's right for this particular moment.
All right, everyone, let's do a quick recap of the lessons in this episode. If you haven't figured it out by now, here it is. We are all about support and supporting the children, students, the parents, the teachers. Can't say enough about that. As you heard from Pete and Timmy, it is so important to take the time to really build those relationships, those trusting relationships. A great strategy is to pick up the phone, reach out, call, rather than send that email. That'll truly make an amazing difference. Also, you heard from the gentleman the importance of engaging staff in critical conversation about what's next. They're the ones in the trenches, they're the ones who are truly learning from this experience. So, why wouldn't we take advantage of their expertise? We'd be fools not to. The other thing to do with that is the need to be humble, to be honest. We're all vulnerable right now. So we need to show that. We need to lead by that. We're in it together. And in closing, time is of the essence. We should be engaged in those conversations sooner than later. And we should be taking opportunities to really think critically about the future. All right, folks, that wraps up episode 3. Be on the lookout for, yes, indeed, episode 4. Thank you so much for listening, and check us out at NPT Education. Thanks so much. Be well.